everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to discuss the chapter Ozymandias. So before we start, I would like to give you a brief introduction about this poem, Ozymandias. So this is a sonnet which is a 14-line poem. In this poem, the speaker listens to a traveler describing the ruins of a gigantic stone statue of King Ozymandias. The statue of the once mighty king is now a wreck in the desert. This makes the speaker realize that even the most powerful and proud can be reduced to nothing by time. I hope you have understood that, but for a better understanding, I like to emphasize on the fact that even the biggest of the things can be reduced to nothing by time. I mean, it can go down. Like you see, there are many great leaders in this time, but if somebody lives for 1,000 years to see, you will see that the leaders no more. I mean, nobody will know that leader if he's not a very famous one, or even if it's a famous one. I mean, fame is for a short period of time, and what people remember is your good deeds. So why not do good deeds? So here we are going to read about an arrogant king, more about arrogant king whom a traveler is describing about, and he is no more, but all remains is a statue of his in the desert area. So now this traveler has seen his reign, and he is describing that how rude and ruthless he was, and all these things are mentioned in this poem beautifully. And one more note, you can please make a note of this, that it can be pronounced as poem also and poem also. So both of the pronunciations are absolutely correct. Now let us go and read this poem. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed." So now this traveler is describing that there is a ruin, there's a wreck in the desert. It's a statue, it's a very big statue which is now ruined all of a sudden, and you will see that near the sand, that is the, the sculpture. It's a headless sculpture, and you will ask me, where was the face? So that face was lying half sunk in the sand, so it was now half buried in the sand, and now you'd ask me, there's no word face mentioned here. So the synonym for face is visage over here. So visage is a person's face. So now let me emphasize on this line, two vast and trunkless legs of stone. Trunkless means headless. Okay, without the upper part of the body, in fact. I mean, above the waist. So above the waist there's nothing. It's just the legs, and everything else is ruined. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. So now I have described that to you. Whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. So now these are the feelings described of the king. And how do we know that? By the expression on that particular visage, that is visage or the face. So now they're saying he has a very frown face, and he is giving a very cold command. That means he's a ruthless and a heartless king. Whose frown and wrinkled lip, and wrinkled lip means that he's making a very weird kind of a face, which is showing his rudeness and how arrogant he was. And sneer of cold command tell that the sculptor well those passions read. So now the sculpture, the people who carve the sculpture, they have seen that king closely, so they know how will they build that particular statue. Now they're designing the statue so beautifully and artistically that anybody who is passing through the statue can understand how was the king's behavior in the olden times, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocks them and the heart that's fed. Well, this is quite a difficult line, which took me I had to sit down, read these lines twice to understand it better. So now what does that mean? Well, which yet survive? The people who are still surviving, they're, you know what, the ones who have seen his rise and fall. I mean, perhaps the very old people, like, for example, this shows that his reign was not very old. I mean, it had just gone, just got ruined a few years ago, maybe 20 or 30 years ago. So obviously humans can live above 80 or 90 years. So they are describing that the people who yet survived and saw Ozymandias at least once were stamping on these lifeless things, and they are describing that this king used to mock people, in Hindi we call it nicha dikhana. So now the king used to always show the dark side to the people, in short I can say, and he would feed the people with rudeness. So here the phrase heart that fed is beautifully describing the lines. The king was feeding people with his rudeness and recklessness. And on the pedestal, so I'm going on the second paragraph. So the first paragraph is clear. Now let me summarize this for you. So now this king is quite arrogant, and all his facial expressions have been described by the traveler. And how does the traveler know that? Because he can see that expression on the Rex, on that visage face, and he's describing how well the sculptor had made that statue. And also he might have seen some travelers. He might have seen some travelers stamping on them. So he was describing that. So who is describing that to is the author. So the author's name here is Percy Bysshe Shelley. We will read about the author later. Now let's go to the second paragraph. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my words, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level stands stretched far away. So now, what is a pedestal? I mean, you can see in that picture where it's a place where the statue is mounted. It's like a raised platform like this, and on that you see the statue is not directly made on the roadside, or not, it is not directly in contact with the land. It has a raised platform like this where the statue is made. So that is the pedestal, that's known as the pedestal. And then it is usually a cubical shape or a rectangular shape pedestal based on the size of the statue. So now on that particular pedestal, something was written, and that written words have been clearly described in the poem. So now what he's saying, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. So now he's introducing himself to the people who are passing by, the passers-by who look at the statue. King Ozymandias is trying to spread his message to them. So now what he's saying is, my name is Ozymandias. So that's common, he's saying his name, King of Kings. So now this is showing his arrogance, that he thinks that he's better than any other king. So he's practically the King of Kings, Raja Diraj. So that's what he has written in the first line. Now he's saying, look on my words, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and rare, and blah blah blah. We'll describe it later. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So now you see that statue was quite big, and once it might be very beautiful as well. So people who would see it might be breathless. It might take their breath away, according to Ozymandias. And he might have made many monuments and stuff in spite of his bad behavior, and he was trying to make the other kings feel jealous, and the other noble people feel jealous that, okay, my work is better than yours, and you should be sad that you cannot make that beautiful thing. You cannot create that much big things as I did. So this is something which is showing King Ozymandias' arrogance. So if in case you have an examination and you have to attempt this question, you can write it this way. You can describe these lines in your own words, saying that King Ozymandias was very arrogant. He used to feed people with his rudeness, and he was expecting all the kings and the noble people to look at his work and feel jealous and hopeless that they couldn't achieve the heights he did. He was unknown so I'm adding on to this line that he was unknown to the fact that you can mention the explanation below that not everything is stable, everything comes to the end after one time. And you can give this example that this gigantic statue of Ozymandias is the best example, and blah blah blah, that the most powerful and the proud can be reduced to nothing by time. You can explain that in your answer. So nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. So now here the traveler is stating that only that trunkless legs, only those legs, the pedestal and the visage which is half sunk in that shattered visage which is half sunk in the sand is all that has remained, and it is in the middle of the desert. So I don't think most of the people visit deserts, and especially the middle of the desert. People might go visit Egyptian countries, Egyptian cities, and they might go in the desert areas a little far, but nobody goes in the middle of the desert usually, only travelers. So now this statue is no more of any importance, or maybe a new king or queen who came to rule that land might have abandoned this old statue. Now they're saying it's a colossal wreck, so it was colossal here is the meaning huge, massive. So it was a very huge statue which has been ruined. So ruin is synonymous to the word wreck. So of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. Boundless means limitless. So it's a limitless thing, it's trying to describe that this statue is now all abandoned and not much people are looking at it, and the lone and level stands stretched far away. So now, as I described earlier, this statue is quite far away in the middle of the desert where not everybody come to visit the place. So this was the story. This was actually a poem, my bad, of King Ozymandias. So the poem name was Ozymandias, and it's written by Percy, Bysshe, Shelley. So now, he was one of the most renowned English romantic poets. He's best known for the poems like Ode to the West Wind and To a Skylark. So he's quite a popular writer, So my advice for you will be go through this poem twice or thrice, because it has lots of good words which can be imbibed, and you can go through the word meanings as well if it is mentioned in your textbook. Or you can go to Google, search the words and write it down in your rough book, and then memorize it for your better understanding, because using these words is more important than attempting the exam and just for the heck of doing it you're learning. So you need to imbibe something from each chapter. Now you see, you can imbibe good spellings, and there's a good central message which says that you should not be arrogant. The only thing which remains is the deeds of the person. Like what people remember of King Ozymandias is that he was quite rude and ruthless. He had a heart made of stone. He used to feed people with his rudeness and blah 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 and all sorts of things. So thank you for watching this video, Ozymandias, and hope you are for the next video, and stay tuned until my next video, and until it's me zooming out. Thank you and have a lovely day.